Very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to yet another panel discussion on the future of work. I'm Hemant Jain, your success coach. And in this series, what we are focusing on is the conversation around the future of work. 3 years ago, of course, COVID hit and changed the perspective of how work is done. Then, of course, earlier this year, 2023, the AI conversation became a hot topic. I mean, AI has been around for like 10, 20 years now, a decade or two. But the conversation became extremely hot in this year because AI came to everybody's fingertips. People got access. Absolutely everybody got access to AI tools and they began using it. And the conversation became more mainstream. If you put together the last 3 years of experience of remote working and the whole perspective around work that has changed, along with the onslaught of AI tools, one after the other, and the progress and the refinement being made to the AI tools week after week, not even year after year. The progress is now week after week. We see a very different future of work. And that's what the whole series, the whole panel discussion series is about. Today in episode 6, we are looking at the impact of AI-driven and data-driven decision making on the human element. For the past several decades, decisions have been based on a lot of data. As much as data that organizations, individuals, and even teams could gather, they put it all together, went into the analytics of this same, figured out factors after factors on which the decision could be made, and after a lot of number crunching, data crunching, decisions were made. As time has gone by, the amount of data has only increased, and we see newer and newer applications of data-based decision making. AI comes in again. With AI, the ability to crunch even larger volumes of data in a shorter amount of time has only increased. So we are going to see far newer applications, applications which would have seemed difficult or time consuming in the past, those are coming in. But where does that leave the humans? The humans who are taking the decisions and the humans who are also the victims or at the receiving end of all those decisions. That's what we are going to discuss today. So in this, we are going to have, I'm joined by 3 fantastic panelists, industry stalwarts who have, in their own way, created a niche, created a space for the work they are doing in their own industries. So let me introduce them, and for simple sake of simplicity, I would introduce them in the reverse order of their names. So let me bring to fore Srinath first. Hi, Srinath.
Hi, Hemant.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, Srinath, and let me introduce him first. A software professional with 22 years of experience, currently making a difference as the Vice President at NatWest, formerly the Royal Bank of Scotland, spearholding a platform that delivers solutions to support new age banking with AI and machine learning at its core. He's the co-founder of an NGO called Sant Sangamitra Foundation that has been serving the students community for 18 plus years in their educational needs and making them sustainable in their careers. He's an accredited leader and coach, a trained problem solver on Kepner-Trego methodology, trained on handling crucial conversations by Vital Smarts, a trained certified first responder in flood rescue operations by NDRF, an avid Shutterbug by passion, and of course, a distinguished Toastmaster. That is the highest honor one is bestowed upon in the Toastmasters International for exemplary contribution. Thank you, Srinath. It's a great delight to have you on our panel today. Next, let me introduce.
Thank you so much, Hemant.
Let me introduce Nutan. Welcome, Nutan.
Hi, Hemant.
Well, about Nutan, Nutan Karavade, a strategic finance expert with 2.5 decades of experience in turnaround business growth and driving large teams in multiple domains with breakthrough results. A cost accountant by profession who loves to drive unconventional projects, right from designing digital roadmap, strengthening compliances, and empowering finance teams to play strategic catalyst and steward role. A storyteller in the making, exploring the art of expressing the financial jargons. Specialized in business transformation, she drives the end-to-end value creation, helping business units and corporates grow where it matters and get slimmer where needed. A certified business excellence assessor with an aim to enhance the role of finance professionals to become strategic business partners. Welcome to the panel, Nutan.
Thank you, Hemant. Thank you so much.
And last but not the least, we have got our friend Hariom Singh. Welcome, Hariom,
Hi,
to
Hemant.
the panel.
Hi, Hemant. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So, Hariom, okay, just a moment. Something has happened on my screen. Yes. Okay. So, what's happening? Okay. So, too many systems happening on my screen. Okay. So, I'm back. Hariom is a techno-managerial professional with 12 plus years of experience across various sectors. He specializes in delivering value through enterprise-level transformation projects. A graduate in information technology with postgraduate in industrial management has led him to amalgamate the knowledge of both the fields and build a repertoire of digital transformation skills. Lean thinking has been the core of his experience that has led him to drive change management with a very structured approach, which not only translates into a smooth transition, but an enriching experience for all the stakeholders involved. He has been privileged to traverse in a short span of time a gamut of sectors, starting with core manufacturing, consulting, real estate, and now, of course, retail. It has helped him in utilizing a strong foundation and applying those fundamental concepts completely in very different settings. He has successfully learned and applied concepts of AI, machine learning, RPA in live agile project setting, and come up with out of the box and very efficient solutions. So, thank you once again, Hariom, for being on the panel.
Thank you. Thank you. Pleasure is all mine.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the point in our conversation where the introductions are done and we are ready to kick off our conversation about the future of work in the context of data and AI driven decision making. So, my first question to our panelists will be about their experience in the same. What have they seen happening in terms of AI and data driven decision making? Any new trends that they have seen, any new trends that they have witnessed or seen in development? So let's look at the landscape of changes that are happening in terms of AI and data driven decision making. So let's start with Hariom.
Thank you. Thank you, Hemant, for having me, first of all, on the panel. And yeah, so the topic is very relevant to the times that we are in at the moment. And I would say that this is the right time to have these discussions because they entail a lot of, discussion at the forefront of it. We see that how AI can, actually transform things, as well as there is a risk associated with it as well. From my personal experience point of view, from my professional journey point of view, we started with the discussion on having these AI into the different segments of business, a decade ago. Since then, Internet of Things has developed in case of manufacturing, where they have implemented all the sensor-based applications to help the human elements or the leaders to make decisions, or I would say data-driven decisions more accurately. So one thing is that these systems have improved the accuracy of decision making, and on the other part of it, it has helped the lean agenda, and it has led to organizations being more efficient in their operations. From a top line point of view, and from the current experience that at present I'm working, it has significantly impacted the top line growth of companies. For example, in retail as well, there has been a lot of decision which has gone into the product mix that should be presented to a particular customer based upon his customer profile, based upon his ethnicity, based upon the demographics of a particular area. So all these data points, which earlier were very difficult to assess and take a decision upon, and then trying to implement the results of those decisions in the region where it mattered, was not possible. But now, with the advent of the learning algorithms and artificial intelligence algorithm which can process huge amounts of data, I think we are in a much better position to take a decision as to place which product in which store at what point in times to generate maximum revenue out of the stores itself. So I think that has transformed the way that we look at data and how we use it in our day-to-day decision making. Yeah. So I think it's a game-changing revolution.
Fantastic, fantastic. As applied to retail, on one side, you have absolutely humongous amount of data, as you have got in real terms, millions of customers making millions of buying decisions. All that data you have, and now what you can do with that data in terms of, for an organization, sky's the limit. And then to translate that into intelligence and utilizing that to further your business can be absolutely a game-changing effort. Fantastic, Hariom. We move on to Nutan. How about your experience and examples that you have seen?
Yeah. So, first of all, thanks, Hemant, for inviting me for this very interesting topic of AI and the data decision making that's happening around. Coming from a finance background that I work with, numbers are very critical. So, two things that come to my mind immediately when I look at AI and a data-driven decision making. One is about the credit risk assessment. Today, the AI models actually analyze individuals' credit history. They look at even transaction and the behaviors of how the transactions are conducted, and there are many other relevant information. They use this information, I have seen, to determine the credit worthiness. And of course, this is a very helpful tool for lenders to make more accurate lending decisions. Of course, I mean, all this to effectively manage the risk. So where this is one example, I will say, where there is about the analysis. What comes more stronger to me when I look around in the finance domain is portfolio management. Vast amount of data. This data comes from various sources. There are a lot of economic indicators that need to be considered. There are companies' financials that needs to be understood. There are market prices that keep changing. And of course, I mean, not to forget the media and the sentiments and the news that goes around when it comes to companies and their performances. So which could be positive or negative. So if you actually look at, as you rightly said, humongous amount of volume of data is available. Today with this AI tools, actually what they do is they integrate this data into a unified format. They have been using historical data to assess risk. Not only that, if you look at it, there are a lot of calculations and matrices that are considered. So when you look at volatility, you look at the beta, you look at the value and the risk around. So it's all, the whole game is about, the risk, return, and the risk tolerance and the return expectations of the investors. Now, where I find it more interesting is what has changed around us from a generalized recommendations. Today, because of this use of AI, there are personalized recommendations that can be made to the clients. There are market sentiments that are analyzed, and therefore, in a way, if you look at it, there is expansive use of data. the data that is used to give solutions, not generalized and specific. I think that's something which is a turning point, which I see around specifically from the finance that I come forward. Yeah. So, Hemant, I think these are the two top things that come to my mind prominently when we talk of data and AI.
Fantastic, fantastic. I think moving from retail coming to banking, and even banking has got both the retail as well as the B2B side. So very interesting perspectives we get there, and both conversations that I hear, there is a lot of customer centering effort happening. It's to service the customer better, or of course, for a business, making money is the objective. So how do we make more money from the same customers? Either way, it is useful to have all that data in there, utilized, analyzed to give us the best insight possible. Fantastic. From there, we move on to Srinath. How about your experience and observations?
Yes, Hemant. First of all, thank you again for having me on this panel. It means a lot to share our thoughts here. So, as what we are calling out, AI has been revolutionizing the world that we are on. So much so that about 5 years back, though you said it has been in existence for like about 20 years, about 5 years back, only 10% of the companies were talking about AI. Now, almost 80% of the companies have started talking about AI. So much so that if you look back, as of August 2023, we have close to 7,000 tools that are AI based, which are available on online. So in a way, if we look back, there are a lot of decisions that gets made now with the help of AI. And some of those that I can think of prominently are in a case where when we do recruitment process, where we are talking about profile filtering for one job role that comes in, we see few hundreds of applications that gets landed. Now, how do somebody screen up these ones and find a way to identify the right candidate which fits the role that we have? Again, spending hours and hours time together, their AI comes in, and we see companies like Amazon revolutionizing it, where they are using it in the recruitment process to screen filter and filter out the profiles and get them shortlisted for the respective job roles. Similarly, we also see in the banking environment, where from lending and application processing for loans, we use AI in some of the banks that we know, where it is revolutionizing the process to predict whether the customer is having a capability to repay it, whether he has got a credit history that's worthy of it, and an holistic respective lookup in terms of whether the customer has got any kind of a default, not just financial in terms of bank, but the other aspects are also taken into consideration to decide whether a loan application should be given to him or her or not. So there again, we could see that AI is revolutionizing the way it is being done. And similarly, in another example that I can quote, even in performance management, we could see that basis the recommendations that are being given and the inputs that the employee is submitting, we could obviously see AI is making recommendations to the employee of what he or she can be geared upon in terms of their learning path towards the way that they have to progress, depending on what are the areas of improvement that have been recommended and what are the goals that they have progressed. AI is capable of recommending solutions and learning paths which would help them gear up and move in the right direction. So those are some of the areas that we have seen where AI is revolutionizing and changing the way that we're playing the game. That's how I see it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, both these cases that you have mentioned, there's a lot of data which has traditionally been reviewed by humans. I mean, as early as I would say 10 years ago or a few years ago, people are still going through each CV or each performance appraisal input coming in one by one with human effort, and then the filtering happens. So it's great to have tools, something like an AI, which would be custom built for that purpose and help us reduce the man hours involved. I think more than just reducing effort, what it helps organizations do is come up with a result faster, to do the whole processing faster, and that's where the key is. So if you look at it, we've seen examples from retail, banking, and internal processes of an organization, like hiring, CV filtering, performance appraisals. And these are just few of the examples we have seen. The whole AI, number crunching, data crunching, and decisions being based on those things, it's only increasing in every sphere of business and even people's individual lives. We may not realize it, but AI is also sometimes responsible for what we see as entertainment. We may not know, but the algorithms of Netflix, Amazon Prime decide what they show us on the screen, and from which we select something which we would see. Unless we have gone in specifically with the intent of, I want to see this particular series or episode, we go often with exploration that, okay, let me see what's there on the app and I'll pick one. And what we are, and what each one of us sees is very, very different. And there is AI behind it. There's a lot of analytics behind it. So our life is being governed by AI in some way. So with all these things happening, I want to focus the attention on the business, on the organizations. What are the challenges all these organizations are going to face or are facing even right now, as more and more decisions are being kind of put on AI or data analytics? As more and more decisions happen with AI and data analytics, what happens to the human element, the decision makers, as well as those who are at the receiving end of it? So what are those challenges coming up? Would like to hear from our panelists once again. Hariom, over to you.
Yeah, Hemant. So it is a very critical point that you pointed out, which means that what is the human element in terms of understanding that, for example, from a point of view of a decision maker, uh, the challenge is to determine whether the decision that he's taking, is it based upon correct data, or is it based upon, or is it biased towards some of the opinions, right? So because we already know from that perspective that these systems, they depend upon certain element of that is dependent upon human input to that particular process itself. So from a data point of view, there are large organizations which are working on the backend data itself. So from a decision maker point of view, it is very important to understand that whatever output that he's seeing in front of himself as a result of these AI algorithms, it should not be biased. If it is biased, then it will create a decision which might affect the overall organization in itself. And when I talk about another element, that is to the ignorance that it comes that decision making process generates towards the human experience. Sometimes we, as a decision making authority, we can overlook some of the important points that are mentioned by very relevant people in the organization when they talk from their own experience. So leaning too much towards these systems, since they are just starting to grow and mature, but leaning too much towards those systems and relying very heavily on them can generate this averseness within the organization that experience is not being valued. So that is something that the organizations need to address. One is not to have a bias, because they need to understand that data is generated or built by human beings at the back end. At the same times, avoid this averseness within the organization, which is created because of these algorithms coming into picture, these systems coming into picture.
Absolutely, absolutely. Great points. So I think as more and more decisions get taken by uh, data, by AI, by machines, as we might want to call it in fancy terms, but there will be people who will be happy with those decision making, and there will always be some victims of the decision making who won't like it, and for want of a better choice, they'll just blame it on a faulty algorithm or the machines for making wrong decisions. And they would, of course, have their opinion about it. And that is going to happen. We see that even today, even in terms of adoption of AI, we see a lot of conversation where some people who are getting the benefit of using the AI, they are completely gung-ho about the fantastic abilities of the AI tools. Whereas you will also find people in the room who will say, oh, no, not that great. It's not accurate. But AI is not supposed to be accurate at this point in time when the work has just begun. We are a long way to go. Videos were very botchy a few months ago, but now the kind of videos being created by AI are like super fine, smooth, and almost very difficult to say that it is generated by AI. So moving on to Nutan, how about your perspective on the challenges?
Yeah. So if I was to simply put it in a short and sweet way, I'll say that the AI use of AI is actually putting logic behind the madness. So when I look at portfolio management as an example in itself, there is huge data which is there. So considering the fact, if you look at pre-AI tool, there used to be manual analysis. So as a portfolio manager, the limited data would be limited and the information would be analyzed on a limited data. Today, the characteristics is voluminous size of data, which has, and the AI tools have actually improved the decision making. Again, not just improve, they are actually aiding quick decision making. So imagine the huge data at your fingertips, converting and getting insights, giving you what kind of portfolio management needs to be done for the investor. You suggest the investor and they take the decision. Now, the other element is where the element of error used to happen. So by the time your decision could be the market has moved on, you need to pull out your information. Again, the same quick decision making is going to help them to quickly convert your decision, correct it, and bring it back to the track. So I think this is a very good cycle. So that's why I say it's like putting logic into the madness that's happening around with so many elements across. Here there is, so I feel all these things have only aided where the investment advice has shifted to from generalized to specialized. There is one more element, and when I look from an organization point of view, and which is something which I felt very relevant in today's context, is the sustainability and the ESG investing. Today, a lot of people feel and realize the importance of sustainability as an organization, the need to work on it. So today, even the investors are informed. So when they are looking for a portfolio management kind of thing, they would want to work on this. I think with the ESG considerations and the data analytics, with the vast amount of data, ESG related data is can be identified, invested for sustainable food. So I think this is one unique thing which I realized is something that the organization certainly can benefit and match to the individual goals per se. So
Absolutely. So I think you've hit the right spot that it is going to be a very fine balancing game where the benefits as well as the challenges will have to be brought together, balanced out, and to see what is going to work, what is not going to work. At times, also looking at what will be acceptable and not acceptable. There might be some great decision making which could be done with AI, but if people are not going to accept those decisions, then you might have to consider keeping either the AI in the background or not bringing it to the fore at all. Because at the end of the day, the decisions are, AI is for the humans and not the other way around. Great. So with that, let me move the mic towards Srinath, your perspective on the challenges.
Yes, Hemant. Okay, so I believe change is the only one that's inevitable. And with any change comes the aspect of making the mindset shift. And any change for that matter is messier in the beginning, chaotic at the middle, and wonderful at the end. The same applies for AI as well, right? When we are talking about some of these challenges on the AI, it all depends on what goes in is what comes out. So if the decisions are going to be basis the data that is going to be fed in by the organization, the key challenge is talking about the data that goes into it. If the data is not of a good quality, the decision that gets made is not also going to be a good quality. So I believe if the decisions have to be right and it has to be fruitful both for the organization and the individuals who are going to be impacted positively or otherwise because of those decisions, it depends on the quality of data and how the organization uses the AI tools to be able to make a meaningful effort to find the right level of information and make that process and make the possibility of finding the right solutions that will work for the betterment of people. In a way, like what Hariom and Newton said, it is all about predictions. While the prediction alone is not going to help, a decision making that's mixed with a human involvement is what is going to make the magic in terms of applying some human thought and not just blindly going with what human being or what the AI will say is going to make a lot more sense given the current scheme of things at which it's moving. I don't think we are there yet in terms of blindly going with what the AI says, but I believe it's the time. We are still transitioning. We are the successful lot of the bunch who are transitioning through a lot of these changes that are happening in this time, where we are experiencing this transitional shift from a completely data-based decision to an AI-driven decision, which is at least backed by the data. So it is important for us to be mindful and embrace the change and see what we can do about it. Not all decisions are right, but at the same time, if we are mindful of what is the decision that's coming up and be prepared to face it, then the impact could be lesser. If we are not prepared, it can come and hit us hard, which could be detrimental to us as well. So I believe it's important for us to embrace AI, take it with a pinch of salt, apply a little bit of a human thought as well on the final words of what has to be said, and then make the decisions which could make a meaningful aspect of that. That's how I see it.
Fantastic. Absolutely. So, very rightly put, I would say that the decision making, AI and all the data analytical tools, etc., they are a great help to the decision making process, but we are still a far distance away from relying completely on the algorithms and the machines and the AI to take the decisions for us. We may have given it some basic ones, but when it comes to the people side of decision making, any decision that is going to directly impact people around, we still want to have that human interface there, or at least a final authority who will look at the data generated or the information generated by the AI, the decision suggested by the AI, and then take a call. Whether we will reach there sooner or later in terms of the AI taking the final decision, time will tell. We hear about a few organizations who are experimenting with appointing an AI CEO. Seems a good, catchy news, but I'm personally wondering if there is a person operating an AI, because of all the AI instances that we have visibility of, at least there is always somebody who's prompting the AI to give some decisions with some input data or a specific question. And we all know the power of the right questions. You ask a wrong question, you get a very weird answer. Asking the right question is equally important. Well, before we move on to our next segment, I would just give a quick shout out to all the individuals who have joined us as the audience today for the panel discussion, and also all those individuals who are watching this as a recording on YouTube or any other channel like LinkedIn or our social channels. Thank you very much for joining the conversation. I'm sure what we discuss here today, that as well as the topic and the trigger conversations will act as a nice conversation for you from the audience members to pick up a conversation at your office, at work, with your friends. These conversations, these stimulated brainstorming sessions are great, and they should be, I would always encourage them, because they will create a curiosity, and that will help you explore these conversations further, because frankly speaking, these are the future of work. As a small token of thank you to the audience, I would like to share something. As a coach, all I can give is my valuable time. So here is me offering a 20 minutes of clarity, a laser sharp coaching session, absolutely free. 20-minute session where we focus on one thing, one issue, one thing that you are stuck at in life, one problem statement, one anything. So leave it to you. Decide what is that one thing. In this session, there will be no introduction. There's no pitching happening. We just focus on the problem at hand, and the conversation will be all around it. So 20 minutes to that. There's a link on the screen as well as a QR code. You can scan that. And the link, I'll be sharing that in the chat also in a few minutes. So you could note from there. And let's get back to the conversation. Another note to the members, if you have any question or any comments to add to the existing ongoing conversation, feel free to use the chat box. I will pick the questions from there towards the end of our conversation during the Q&A and put those questions to the panelists. I have already received a few questions, but they are like somehow sent to me only. Feel free to put the questions to the entire group. Let everybody see the questions. No problem. You don't have to send it just to me. Great. So coming to the last segment of our conversation, we'll start with Hariom again. So the question is simple. We have talked about the things that are happening in terms of AI and decision making. We are also looked at some of the challenges that we are facing. All three of you, as leaders of tomorrow, as people in the CXO positions of different organizations in different industries, what do you think business should be doing? What do you think organizations should be doing to overcome all these challenges and to actually make good use of these AI and data crunching capabilities to make decisions? Over to you, Hariom.
Well, yeah, I mean the last bit is very interesting to me because this segment of the conversation, I have had that piece wherein I have interacted with the persons from the shop floor itself in manufacturing, and right now I'm into the stores. These people who are there in the stores. The basic challenge which every AI system or any system that you are going to implement poses is an acceptability and an adoption in terms of the users that you're targeting. So it needs to have a connect. It needs to have a connect with the uh, actual people in the organization with whom you're working with, or who are the ones who will be gaining the maximum with the help of that particular initiative. Mostly it has been a top down approach. It will continue to be a top down approach for some time to come as well. But that top down approach has to be dealt in a manner that we engage as many stakeholders as possible throughout the value chain of the organization. Once we do that, and once we harness the minds and thoughts of the people with whom we are working with to actually enhance our solution, enhance the AI systems that we are working with, it becomes an inclusive approach. When this becomes an inclusive approach, then we do not have a challenge in terms of change management when we are going to implement the solution, and we are, because there would be a collective realization of value of that particular system or the solution we're talking about. So the way I would see Hemant is that the only way forward for any artificial intelligence or machine learning or any of these modern systems that come in is to have a collaborative approach, be inclusive in nature, so that we do not let go of the human element. And still, at the end of it, the decision maker should be, a human itself, because right now the maturity is not up to that level that AI can be relied upon, and the decision taken can be taken directly by the value by the output that it is showing. So it has to be inclusive while we are building towards it, and at the end there has to be a human element which needs to take the final call.
Thank you, Hariom. It's almost sounds like that the solution to the AI onslaught is going to be the usual solution to human evolution, collaboration and working with each other and being inclusive. So what works for humans works for you, AI too. And yes, but rightly said, at a deeper level, that's what is going to be essential. The inclusivity of individuals across the board, across the value chain, food chain, supply chain, or whichever way you look at an organization, horizontally, vertically, or backward or forward integrator, as long as everybody can align and collaborate to get the AI to work on the required results, things will be smooth. Any disruption to that, and things could be pretty rough. Even if the AI is performing its job well, people will find it difficult to accept them. Thanks, Hariom, for that perspective. Nutan, how about your perspective?
Yeah. So, as rightly said, Hemant, and even Hariom said, See, the way I look at it is AI and machine learning is here and it will continue to evolve. In fact, it can be helpful with more sophisticated models as they bring along for us. I think the success actually is in the fusion of how the AI technologies are used, how you work out hybrid models. Because as rightly said, humans, you can't give away the human element at all. Without that, decision making can't happen. Tools and AIs will help enable you for better decision making. The decision making, the implementation of decision, the acceptance of decisions is going to be remaining with the human as well. And as Hariom rightly said, it's about how you translate this change from top management to down the line, because it's not that these kind of tools and the data driven which comes from the tool is something which is disturbing people down the line or the transactional level. Even leadership at leadership position need to understand that AI is here and it is here to help them and the teams along. I think once they understand that, it becomes easier to percolate it down. If I simply put it, how do you automate the mundane things and actually enhance the human value is where the success of this. So going forward, if you ask me, I think embracing this AI in our life is will play a significant role. Humans will continue to remain vital. Their expertise are needed. The expertise and skill set probably will undergo a slight change, but it cannot be eradicated. So I think that's important for us to know as leaders, future leaders and leaders, to bring it down, percolate it down. I think that's how I look at it, Hemant.
Fantastic, fantastic. I was formulating in my mind what I would say in your response, and just one thing caught my attention. That while we were focused on business and business challenges, somewhere you said AI is going to be part of our life. It's not just work, future of work that we are talking about. AI is transcending into our personal lives. It has already done that, but now it is actively doing it. In fact, we are bringing AI to our own personal lives using AI for so many things. And that usage is only going to increase. So, with that perspective, let me just segue to Srinath.
Yes. So, Hemant, what I think here is it is time that we see where AI tools are being used even in making board decisions at the board. In some organizations, we have heard in the board they have a specific tool called Einstein that is in the market, which is helping the board to make strategic decisions and not tactical ones. So we are talking about a situation like that where it's evolving big time. And in evolvement of that kind, what we see here is it is time now that we move on from making tactical decisions and hand it over to AI to make those tactical decisions which are driven by the past history, and anybody doing that same model can arrive at the same solution and move on to start seeing how we can make. Am I audible?
Perfectly
Hello.
audible, all good.
Hello. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I was just saying we have to move on to make strategic decisions rather than hanging on to tactical ones. At the same time, I believe while this change of transitioning happens from tactical to strategic, each of the organizations have to follow two things. One is being responsible in terms of what is the level of data that they capture and how do they use it without affecting the privacy of the individuals, and make the best possible use of it to make some meaningful decisions. And second, the users have to be cautious of what is that they are giving their data for. We blindly click on accept for everything that comes up on our screens without even reading where is it going to be used, what is it going to be used for. We still end up living saying that my privacy is at task. While we are in the world where every other click, every other chat history, every other screen that we see is going to be stored somewhere to make some meaningful decisions for their own companies. We have to be mindful of that and be cautious of where our data is going to be used for. And it has to be two sides of the coin where both of them have to be cautious to provide data and to make use of the data to make some meaningful decisions. But at the end, like what we all are resonating with, irrespective of what be the decision that the AI takes, finally there has to be a human element that needs to kick in to see whether this is the right thing to do or if this is otherwise to do. And still the decision making, the final step has to be there. And AI should only aid in making the decision process. And finally, there should be an override if required, given to at the last minute. That is what could be a meaningful way to look at how AI can be embraced right now. Without having to completely reject it, we should still look at embracing it and finally have the human element to make the call and see what needs to be done. Otherwise, it could have the positive as well as the negative aspect of it, especially for the human beings, because it's the end state who's going to be facing the impact, whether it is positive or otherwise. So that's how I see it.
Absolutely, absolutely. While you were talking, I was just for a moment went back to my school days, where we used to get in our English uh, test paper questions like write an essay on science, a boon or bane, atomic energy, a boon or a bane. I think it would have probably started already that the teachers are thinking of putting in the topic artificial intelligence, a boon or bane. So that's the world we are in. And you pointed out very interesting fact about the kind of data people are willingly sharing, but of course unknowingly also sharing. Most people have become blind to the kind of data they are sharing about themselves through the various apps, through the various whether it's on a browser that they are visiting a website or the phone apps they are using. Tremendous amount of data our phones have about ourselves, and we are opening up ourselves to organizations, to companies who are going to work with that data, make decisions based on that, and target us for their products, services, or for the products and services of their clients. And it's a very different world that we are talking about. We can talk and uh, debate about the philosophical side of free will, but with all that data that we are constantly leaking out and which is being used against us, are we going to really have any free will? Will we be deciding anything, or we will just have this feeling of taking a decision which is already being made under the influence of so much of the media, the information inputs, and all those subtle hints which are being given to us by the various apps and what we see on the screen? It's going to be a crazy world. That all the talk of data also brings us to the efficiency of the AI. Uh, when the whole conversation around ChatGPT started, my first reaction was, "Oh, ChatGPT. What does it do? It does a full, let's say, scoring of the internet. It goes around reading all the material in the world, and then you ask it a question, and like a teacher, it sublimes everything and gives you a synthesis of the answer." But we all know that the internet pretty much has a large amount of garbage, whether it is information or content written by people. A lot of it is in fact garbage. Quite a lot of it is also false information. So if an AI was creating or deciding on the final output based on all this information, the age old principle of computer systems would come into play. Garbage in, garbage out. How do you protect against that? And as we start looking at AI and application of AI and more critical fields, fields like medical sciences, fields like medical history, assisting doctors, there is a lot of fantastic application of AI and AI-based decision making in the medical field, in the construction industry, and so many other fields. But if the data itself is flawed, the results would be flawed. So that would take us towards a genre of AI which is not based on the information available on the World Wide Web, but it is a more focused, verified, validated information. Build that together, feed it to the AI, and now you have got a fantastic powerhouse of capability. Well, I would like to go back to my panelists for one final thing. I need a closing statement from you on your perspective. Just 2 lines, no more than that. No more than 30 seconds of your time on that. Think about it while I go through the chat. I've got a few questions there. So I'm going to bring those questions to
Sorry,
our
what is the question you wanted
panelists.
us to think, Hemant?
It's
Sorry,
your
what is the
closing
question you wanted us
statement.
to think?
It's your closing statement on
Okay,
this
fine.
entire conversation. What do you think
Got
about
it.
it?
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
So, okay. So Salim has written, while we are thinking about business decisions, do we see AI playing a role in decisions we make in our personal lives for our children and spouse? Okay, that's a very specific thing. And how do we identify if AI output has not been corrupted by an external malicious data? Great. So let me pick the first one. Do you see AI playing a role in decisions we are making for our personal lives, specifically for our children and spouse? Hariom, any perspective that you would like to share? Being from retail.
Yeah, so a very nice question. So I would say that at this moment, we are not very heavily dependent on AI when it comes to, let's say, it can be from a perspective of deciding personal finance, but from an education point of view, we will be able to decide what is best for our child based upon certain simulations. I mean, I have heard of people deciding a career path for their children based upon some initial analysis conducted by a system. Earlier, it used to be astrology, but now it's like a machine science. But from that perspective, I think most of the decisions when it comes to our personal lives are which are affected by AI are related to personal finance. Education is one area wherein it has started to make its mark, but it's predominantly demand led. So in the sense that it has not penetrated in terms of what career path you need to decide for your child, but from a perspective that it can provide you with an information that can enhance the skills of your child through that particular platform itself. So it can show you methods in which you can replicate or understand where your child is good at, in what skills he is good at, and then enhance those skills so that he can get a good career in whatever field he deems fit for himself, based upon the decisions that based upon the algorithms that we involved in the initial learning phase of a child. So that's the two areas wherein I can see that right now it is making a mark. And obviously, from a retail point of view, each and every day you are bombarded with so many ads on your phone screen that it actually makes you think about some products which you are not even thinking about buying. So it goes into that particular pocket of yours and tries to get some share of it, wherein you are not even thinking about spending anything. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think Facebook has been at the receiving end a lot of these arguments where we keep saying that Facebook is collecting so much information about us and then showing us relevant ads which we need to. But then Google has been doing all that for so many years, showing us contextual ads, ads which were in the context of the page we were reading, maybe not our thoughts. But I think over the past decade or so, with all of us having listening devices around us, primarily the mobile phone. We have got the Alexa, we have got the Google device, we have got our phone where Siri resides. They are always listening to us, whether we want them to or not. And hence, they all know what kind of life we are living, what we are thinking about, what kind of holiday we are planning, what kind of things we are planning to buy. So it's very easy for organization to actually analyze all that data, use AI to effectively analyze all that data together to do a good amount of marketing to us. So it's not just about me thinking about a holiday to Switzerland or buying an expensive car. The organizations have now so much data that they can actually analyze if I will be eligible to take a loan to buy that car, or I will be able to furnish enough cash for that holiday to Switzerland along with my family, and then target me. So it's a very different world we are in. And yes, of course, our choices for children and spouse also will be in many ways be affected by AI, and we might not even realize it. Nutan, any perspective you have on this?
So on a very lighter note, taking the retail point of view and looking as a spouse, I think it would be a delight if the advertisements, when you go on an online shopping site and you say, no, I think I don't need this, would be a delight to a husband saying, oh, she has denied taking an additional thing, which will improve the relation. So I think that's the other positive aspect of looking at it. I think so. I'm a mother of a teenager, and he doesn't like to go to a shop and see. He prefers to look online, but he never shops online. He says, "I just want to look at the vast uh, information and the availability of different things which is there, but he personally wants to go and purchase it itself." Brand specific, probably yes, but I think that's a perfect combination of getting information which is available, assimilating that information, and I think as a parent, it's a proud feeling that they know what to look at, how to decide, and then take a decision. I think these are two aspects which very strongly come to my mind when I look at myself as a spouse, and probably when I look at my children. Better not to talk about husband's choices, because I think the whole room is out of my male friends. So I think that's the aspect which I will add to the conversation. Yeah.
Thank you, Nutan. No problem with highlighting the male choices. We know how good or bad we are with our choices. We often would trust our wives to make the choices for us. So, yes, Srinath, what about you? What do you think?
So what I think is, I don't know whether AI will help us to decide this girl is right for me or not, but at least with respect to what the wives have to shop, AI might have a say in it, because more often we get to see more ads, which is again marketing, which is pushed through YouTube or any other channels of that kind, depending on what demography we belong to, what age group we belong to, what kind of things do we shop, what do we like, and a lot of these aspects get into the decision making of what ad do you see at what time. While it's a bit of marketing as well as a combination of AI, the something that comes up more often that goes in flashy, we see some celebrity using it, and the social media marketing for those celebrities or influencers, we call it, a decision gets made in our mind. The next time that I'm going to get this in a cost less than 30% off or 50% off, we immediately tend to put that extra share from the pocket, like what Harium was saying. It takes a share from our purse and says, yeah, let me go buy it. It's now available at 50%. So that decision gets made, irrespective of whether it is the individual or a spouse or as kids, gets done accordingly. In terms of the child's education and the decision making to be made, I believe there are two sides of the coin there. One, we see parents who are pushing across their aspirations on their children, saying, this is what I was thinking of doing, better I want you to do it, is also a possibility which happens nowadays, even if we don't want that to happen. There are still children making their choices which might or might not work. And sometimes it could be just a wider choice that everybody is making a choice of AI and ML, let me also go in for it, without realizing whether it is a matter of their passion, whether it is a matter of their interest, whether it is within their core values or not, whether it will suit them or not is still a conversation that they need to have. So a lot of these goes into the aspect of decision making. Depends on who you are, what background you come from, what support system you have. Then a decision comes whether you're using AI to make the decision or not. That's how I see it.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Great. Thank you very much for those responses to Salim's question. With that, I think we are just about to exceed our time to will bring our conversation to a close. I would just once again share the QR code and information about booking the time with me for the speed coaching. While panelists, I'll come back to you for those final statements. So just a moment and I'll be there with you. Here's the QR code once again for booking time for the laser sharp speed coaching, and the link is also there, bit.ly HK speed coach. I will put it in the comments this time. And yes, of course, just like we had this fantastic conversation today, next week we will have yet another pertinent topic, and it's going to be about the changing meaning of agility and adaptability for organizations. Two qualities, agility and adaptability, have always been put as the hallmark of great organizations. Whichever organization has been agile and adaptable with the time, they have survived. Those who remained stubborn have almost perished. We don't even hear about those giants of the yesteryears who decided not to change with the time. But the agility and adaptability in the age of AI and people working from home and people's complete reorientation towards work, that meaning, the concept is completely changing. And we will focus on that next week with Sandeep, Ravali, and Sridhar. Three interesting panelists once again from three different industries, three different perspectives. Episode 7 of Comfortably Uncomfortable with Coach Hemant. Well, that brings us to the end of the session, and I'm now going to take to all our panelists. Okay, let me get everybody on spotlight. Spotlighted, yes. Well, let me do that for myself also. Fantastic. So now let's start with your concluding remark. Hariom will begin with you.
Well, after a wonderful conversation, I can only say this, that uh, AI is here to stay. AI is here to make our lives easier as well as the organizations improve. But at the end, we should not lose the human factor and use the expertise to improve the AI itself.
Fantastic. Nutan.
Yes. Simple words, I think adapt, and embrace AI. Success is in the fusion of this AI and humans. Let's live and take it forward together.
Lovely, lovely. Almost a philosophical bend to the whole conversation. Absolutely fantastic. Srina.
I believe change is the only thing that's constant. Either we embrace the change of AI or stay perished. It's up to us.
Fantastic, fantastic. As a change manager for 20 years, I so much appreciate that conversation, that thought. From my side, all I can say is that for almost all through my consulting career as a change manager, I've always heard my seniors saying that in God we trust, for everything else we need data. So now it's not just data, but it is humongous amount of data being crystallized into some these information with the help of AI. So AI is not going anywhere. AI is going to be with us, and it's going to be part of our work life as well as an integral part of our personal lives. We better learn to live with AI. In fact, we better learn to utilize AI to enhance our own lives, our own work. As you might have as you might have heard many times over LinkedIn and other social channels in the past 6 months, AI is not going to take your job. Somebody who can use AI well, that person is going to take your job. So better be that person who is good at working with AI, be that person who is great at data analytics, who is even better at data analytics using AI. So that's a great field, great job, a job of the future that will be very strongly required by each and every organization, irrespective of the industry. On that note, thank you very much. Thank you to the panelists for being here with us today, sharing your insights. All leaders of tomorrow, CXOs of tomorrow, will be bringing your thoughts and your revolutionary thinking to the organizations you are part of. Thank you to the audience members who have been there and supporting us all through this session. And we will meet again next week for yet another episode of Comfortably Uncomfortable with Coach Hemant, the panel discussion series on the future of work. Thank you very much.